Katie. We have a new book today. We have The Haunted Bridge. Ooh. So let's dive right in with chapter 1. Invitation to Mystery. Sorry, miss, but I wouldn't go near that bridge for $1 million, the young, freckle-faced caddy said. Why, Chris? Nancy Drew asked him. She had just driven her golf ball over 200 yards into a patch of woods bordering the 16th hole. A rustic footbridge stood at the far side of it. Because that place is haunted, that's why. Nancy, a slender, attractive girl of 18 with reddish blonde hair, was intrigued. She requested more details. Before Chris could answer, the other girls who were in Nancy's threesome walked toward her with their caddies. What's up? Asked George Fane, a trim-looking brunette with short hair and a boyish name. The bridge in there has a ghost guarding it, Chris replied. Isn't that right, fellows? The other caddies nodded and cast wary glances among the trees. The third girl, blonde, pretty Bess Marvin, gasped, A real ghost? That's right, miss, Chris told her. You'd better not hang around here. Nancy smiled. What will the ghost do to me? Who knows, Chris retorted, then started to move off. He wouldn't let you take your ball, and he might strike you. Come on, take a penalty stroke. I guess we'd better, Bess agreed. There's a foursome right behind us. Shall I signal them to play through? So she let them go first. No, we may as well go on, Nancy decided. Her caddy was obviously relieved. You couldn't have played from behind all those trees anyway, he said. It's a shame, George commented. You had such a great score up to now, Nancy. I hate to see you lose a stroke, because in golf you want the least number of strokes or swings to hit the ball. Nancy's curiosity about the haunted bridge distracted her attention from the game, and she scored a disappointing double bogey for the hole. So she didn't do super well there. Oh, you should have had a par, George murmured sympathetically. I think par is like hitting it into the hole quickly. I'm not 100% sure, honestly. I don't know golf. Nancy smiled. I've learned never to count my score until the last hole is played. You'll certainly qualify for the tournament, Bess insisted. That is, if you don't let your mind wander off on the mystery. The three girls were spending a few weeks at the Deer Mountain Hotel as guests of Nancy's father, Carson Drew. He had come there on legal business. The summer resort, with its many sports activities, was a contrast to the comparative quiet of River Heights, their hometown, and the girls were enjoying every minute of the vacation. Before their arrival, Mr. Drew had hinted he might ask Nancy to aid him with a puzzling case he was handling. As yet, he had not explained what the work involved. During the lawyer's lengthy absences from the hotel, the girls had been swimming and playing tennis and golf. George and Bess thoroughly enjoyed golf. Both played well, but it was Nancy's scores which had attracted the attention of the club's golf pro. He had urged her to enter the qualifying round of an important championship tournament for amateur golfers to be held shortly. Nancy felt she could offer little competition to the excellent women players at the hotel, but Bess and George had persuaded her to try out, and finally she had consented. You'll bring home the trophy, Nancy, George declared as the girls finished playing the 17th hole. When they approached the 18th tee, the tee is what you hit the ball off of, they noticed that another player was there ahead of them. He was a tall, thin man in his late 20s, immaculately dressed in white slacks. Bushy black hair and a beard partially covered his angular, hard face. Oh, he's Martin Bartescu, Nancy said in an undertone. Let's slow up. The warning was too late. Bartescu had seen the girls. He waved and waited for them to approach. We would have to run into him, Bess commented in disgust. Martin Bartescu had met the girls the previous evening, and immediately he had tried to make a golfing date with Nancy. Although she had heard the man was a very good player, she had taken an instant dislike to him. and politely declined the invitation. Obviously, he liked to brag, and she doubted the truth of his many stories of being friends with famous people. Now, as the girls seated themselves on a bench directly behind the driving area, where they hit the ball, he did not tee off. Instead, Bartescu smiled and walked over to them.
"May I have the honor of playing in with you young ladies?"
he asked engagingly. "We may as well all walk together," Nancy replied politely, but with no warmth in her voice. She drove a long, straight ball, while Bess and George played somewhat shorter ones down the fairway. Bartescu's drive outdistanced Nancy, so he hit the ball farther than she did. As the group moved along, he walked beside her.
"You play a fine game, Nancy," he said. "I was just thinking that you might like to enter the mixed foursome tournament with me next week. Together we should win first place."
"I may not be here that long," Nancy replied. Bartescu looked disappointed.
"I've played golf courses all over the world," he boasted. "Once I played the Prince of Wales."
"And did you defeat him?" Nancy asked, trying to hide a smile.
"Well, yes, I did," Bartescu admitted, "but only by a couple of strokes. Oh, I've often played with royalty."
By this time, Nancy had reached her ball. When she was about to hit it, Bartescu stepped closer. His movement distracted her, and she took her backswing. As a result, she dubbed the shot, so I think she missed.
Too bad," he muttered sympathetically. "You pulled in your elbow just as you struck the ball. Here, let me show you."
He took the club from the girl's hand, and to the annoyance of the trio, insisted upon giving a demonstration of what he considered to be Nancy's fault. Without commenting on his criticism, Nancy walked to her ball and, in her usual good form, hit a beautiful shot down the middle of the fairway.
"That's fine," Bartescu nodded. "You'll make a par 5 on this hole, the way the pros do."
So I think that means it'll take 5 hits to get it into the hole. Determined to play her best, Nancy approached the 18th green. Her ball was only 5 feet from the cup. Intensely annoyed because Bartescu was still offering advice, she stepped up to putt, so to give the ball a little hit. The ball rolled in a straight line toward the cup and came to a stop at the very edge of it. "Oh, Nancy, what a shame!" Bess wailed. Immediately, Bartescu jumped up and down on the ground. The vibration caused the ball to drop into the cup.
"There, Nancy, you made a par 5.
"That wasn't fair, Mr. Bartescu," she said severely. "I'll add an extra putt, which gives me 6.
"But why? You didn't strike the ball."
The girls smiled coldly. Murmuring a few polite phrases, they left the man staring blankly after them and walked to the hotel. "Of all the conceited people!" Bess exclaimed.
So conceited is like he thinks very highly of himself. He thinks he's fantastic.
Bess exclaimed when they were beyond Bartescu's range of hearing. "I'll bet he never came within a mile of royalty, to say nothing of defeating the Prince of Wales by a couple of strokes." "And he made you miss your shot, Nancy," George stated irritably. You'll surely qualify anyway," Beth said as she studied the scorecards. "George has an 85. My score is a disgraceful 90. But Nancy, you have a brilliant 75. So yeah, you want the fewest number of strokes." "I wonder what became of my caddy," Nancy said, so the person who carries her clubs. "I forgot to pay Chris. Also, I wanted to question him about the haunted bridge." "I suppose you'll want to inspect it," Bess said. "Well, if there's anything spooky about it, count me out when you investigate it."
"Do you think there's something to what Chris said?" George put in.
Nancy shrugged and replied, "I'm going to talk to him and find out more about the mystery of the haunted bridge." Before the girls had a chance to search for Chris, Bartescu approached them in the hotel lobby.
"Oh, I wonder if you'd like to attend—"
"Not just now," Nancy said quickly. "I must find my caddy."
"I'll go with you,"
the man began, but Nancy pretended not to hear him and excused herself. She retraced her steps to the 18th green. Though several caddies were lingering nearby, hers was not among them. She questioned another boy about him.
"Chris is just starting out with a twosome," he said. You might catch him at the first tee.
Nancy thanked the boy and hastened to the starting point, which was hidden from her view by a wing of the Deer Mountain Hotel. Two men had just teed off. As she approached them, she observed Chris starting down the fairway behind the players. "Oh, Chris, just a minute," Nancy hailed him. "I forgot to pay you," she said with a smile, taking some money from her pocket. "I want to ask you about that haunted bridge."
"I can't stop to talk now,"
the boy replied. "I understand, but will you meet me near the caddy house after you finish work?" Nancy requested. "About 5 o'clock?"
"I'll be there,"
Chris promised. He hurried off, and Nancy slowly made her way back to the hotel lobby, where she found Bess and George talking to Martin Bartescu. He was telling them about the many prominent persons with whom he was acquainted. "I believe I'll turn my scorecard into the tournament chairman now," Nancy remarked to the girls. "If one of you will attest it."
So she wants them to sign it to prove that she wasn't cheating. Here, allow me,"
interrupted Bartescu. Before Nancy could prevent him, he had taken the scorecard. As he signed his name, Nancy noted a rather curious thing. It seemed to her that he formed each letter with painful precision. Why? Was he trying to disguise his handwriting? We will have to find out.